Hi, I'm Chris Wasser, and I have just come back from the very first Dublin screening of Melania, a documentary about Melania Trump, produced by Melania Trump, and which is said to have cost the folks at Amazon a rumoured $70 million to make. You may have heard a few bits about this film over the last few days, the cost of it, who made it. It is directed by disgraced filmmaker and alleged rapist Brett Ratner, who has just come back out of nowhere to make this film. A lot of people might have just one question going into this documentary. What is it about? It's Melania Trump for the first time telling her story, or at least attempting to tell her story, and it's all been shot and done in the 20 days leading up to the more recent inauguration for President Donald Trump. So I think the mission statement here is to show viewers, well, aside from it being a vanity project and most definitely a propaganda piece for the Trumps, to show viewers what a first lady does in the 20 days leading up to the inauguration, or at least what a first lady like Melania Trump does in those 20 days. So there's been a lot in the news about this film, but you might be surprised to hear that there wasn't actually a press screening for Melania. So that's why we had to wait until the public screening to see it for ourselves. There were 7 people at the very first Dublin screening of this film. It's on in 2 cinemas, Cineworld and View at Liffey Valley. There were 7 people at the screening that I attended. 5 were critics. That might give you an idea as to the level of interest, what the ticket sales might be like after the first weekend. With regards to the film itself, it is very poorly made. It is just one big ad for Melania Trump. And it's, again, it's attempting to show you what goes into, or at least what a first lady does in the run up to inauguration. For Melania Trump, that involves getting her hat just right. She's preparing for the actual inauguration service itself. We learned a lot about the kind of hat and the type of blouse that Melania wants to wear. There's an awful lot of time spent with, the tailors and with the seamstress. She is meeting with her husband, Donald Trump, to actually talk about what they will be doing on the day and where they will be. It's very, very dull. It's trying to paint a portrait of who this Melania Trump person is, because there's so much mystery around her. For the First Lady of America, we don't actually know that much about her. So you would guess going into this thing that it's going to educate you, inform, and engage and possibly even entertain. That is the basic remit for any documentary. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do any of those things. I found there to be a sense of strain when it came to depicting the president and his first lady as a couple who are in love. There's very much a push by the filmmakers to whip up a little bit of romance, whether it's in scenes of them walking through corridors hand in hand, when all the photographers are away. It's sort of an effort being made to say, look, they still are close when the photographers are away. Or even the soundtrack, which tries to kind of paint some romance between them. You come away from it thinking that they just kind of tolerate each other. It looks very much to be, in my opinion, a business partnership. Again, it's just the timing of this documentary seems a little crass. There's a section in the middle where we see Melania quizzed by Brett Ratner, the filmmaker, about who her favorite recording artist is. She says Michael Jackson. They play a little bit of Billie Jean, and all of a sudden we have the most boring and the most nauseating episode of Carpool Karaoke you've ever seen. And this all happening while America is in the state that it's in seems like it's done in such bad taste. I don't know why they've decided to release this film this week.
Here we go again.
I'll give it a 1 star because it ended. I don't think you need this film in your life. If you are anxious to watch it, I do believe it will be on Prime at some point. But there are better films in cinemas this one. Don't waste your time on this one.